Hello, everybody. George Welsh, Superintendent of Schools, back once again. On this session, I have Adam Hartman, our Assistant Superintendent of Schools, and Marne Autobee, the K-8 principal from Harrison School. And so since the last time I recorded one of these sessions, not much has changed. We're still on the stay-at-home rule by Governor Polis, and President Trump, as I understand, has extended the social distancing ruling for the federal government through April 30th. And that means at this point that the earliest we could likely be back to school would be around May 1st or the first Monday after May 1st. What we've been wanting everyone to understand, everyone who's spoken to us, in fact, the governor today in an address to the state said it's very unlikely we won't be back in school during the rest of the year. I even saw a news blurb that the state of Arizona called off school for the rest of this school year, through end of May. That all being said, is whether we get to come back or not, we're going to be ready either way. And we've been doing a lot of work to gear up for digital instruction for our students in kindergarten through 5th grade. And in this session, we have an opportunity to speak with Marne Autobee, the principal of Harrison K-8 school, about what that's going to look like. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hartman first, because he's been kind of setting this whole K-5 digital instruction up for us. Mr. Hartman?
Yeah, thank you, George. Appreciate it. Yeah, Marnie, nice to see you too. Your school is a little different, obviously, because you are a K-8 school, but the questions that I'll have today are really for the elementary, and hopefully that's who we're talking to. There's lots of families and parents and guardians and grandmas and grandpas and kids that are supporting those students at the elementary level. So, George, first I'll just kind of go through what we've been doing at a district level, and then I'll zoom in just a little bit about how Harrison has really been key as a facility for helping us to be prepared as a district, because the school was used last week a fair bit in terms of us getting some devices prepped and ready. And that's good for everyone, including lots of little Harrison Hawks too. So at any rate, we looked at this thing some time ago. In fact, George, you and I and the Board of Education, it was, those initial conversations must be going back now right on a month, about a month, just to say, look, this appears that this could be a reality for us, and we should start thinking about potentials and what could happen. And I'm pleased to say that before we went into spring break, we did do some elementary preparation through pulling together materials and learning expectations, thinking, hey, it's possible. It just might happen that we'll have a closure after spring break. So everyone left to go to spring break. Teachers worked really hard to get that prepared and ready to go. And when the kids went on break, then they actually took with them work that could work for them the week of the 23rd. So that really was last week, and I hope everyone was able to enjoy their spring break, albeit a different kind of spring break. But then last week, the teachers dug in, and now I'm talking about teachers all over. And when I use the term teachers, I'm just talking about all of us. Cañon City Schools employees rolled up their sleeves and really thought in ways that were creative and flexible and new and innovative in a way that it's just unreal. And Marnie, I saw your nice communication to your staff, so I know you've felt those same sort of emotions around, there's been some sadness and anxiety around the change here and what we won't be able to do, but just some really impressive, commendable work going on what we can do and how we can still help kids. So district's been doing that. And at the K-5 level, it's partly about those physical packets. It's partly about the use of our existing digital resources. And Marnie will talk about that and our focus on ELA and mathematics. It's also looking at what supplemental resources help fill gaps. It's looking at what interventions are still available for kids just in new and different ways. And then it's a lot about making sure everyone had devices. And that's where I want to get into just complementing the district level work around trying to quickly find and purchase hundreds of Chromebooks so that we could actually make this thing a reality. Ms. Autobee, you told George and I before the recording came on that, almost 80% of students were able to pick up the materials today. That's tremendous. The devices that they were picking up are things that weren't even in this state a week ago. So really impressive how quickly that stuff was received. Thanks to the IT folks who did use Harrison School while socially distancing to in a sanitary way to unload trucks, to provision machines, redistribute them, make sure that Harrison School and that Washington School in particular, those kids could get those devices because they are so key to our road forward here. So that's district, kind of big picture on what we're doing. We're also trying to figure out how we can help keep kids involved in participation. I'm doing some work with principals that started in earnest a couple weeks ago, but with greater specificity today about exactly what our accountability will be toward participation for kids so that we can help them stay motivated and stay involved in the learning. So there's a lot going on and just a tremendous amount of gratitude. It's been new and challenging, and folks have really risen up. So that's the big idea. Now, Marnie, I'm going to ask you a few questions that specifically help your parent base and kids to understand what's going on just at elementary over at Harrison. Are you ready?
Sure.
Cool. Hey, can you tell us more about what you and your staff have been doing to gear up for K-5 instruction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important for our parents to understand that this is very new for our K-5 teachers and life skills teachers and some of our special education teachers. This online or blended learning is very, very new. In fact, many of them are just finishing up their iLearn blended learning courses. That is professional development for them to help them understand how to make the use of computers in their classrooms interactive for students, not to overdo too much computer time for kids, but to use it in a healthy way to help students become more engaged in the learning in a general education classroom in a brick and mortar school. Unfortunately, we've been pushed to go to a completely online learning format, but they're still trying to complete some, still hold that blended learning philosophy tight and hard. So I think that some parents are going to be surprised at what they see. I think they're going to be amazed at what these brand newbie to the technology world teachers are going to be creating. I was very pleased, as Mr. Hartman said, that I was reviewing all of the elementary lesson plans yesterday and some of the things that the teachers had created. And I was so impressed by some of the lessons that they had put together. And it's really funny because each grade level is so different. At kindergarten level, you'll see something completely different than what first grade has put together. But essentially what you'll see is a collaborative piece of work that, for instance, all kindergarten teachers are collaborating on a week at a time lesson plan. And what they've put together is kind of a learning grid. And the learning grid has different links to it that the kids can click on where the teacher might be pronouncing some words for them. Or it might be a link to a story or a link to a picture. I mean, there's just a lot of different interactive things that they can do. And what we're asking the kids to do is for each day, they choose 5 activities off of that grid because and the 5 activities go along with H has a column and A and W and K and S. So they get to be a hawk every single day with those activities. We did find out this morning that some of the links weren't working. And so our elementary technologist, Ms. Stedman, is working with the teacher a slideshow, or it's a newer version of Google Slides, otherwise known as PowerPoint in the Microsoft world. And they each will be taking a turn every week to teach some of those skills for kids. So it's more of a live, a recorded live feature with the students. So that's working for them. Second grade is they're kind of building their own thing and making it a little more interesting for the kids. Third grade is doing the same thing. They've created some pretty exciting things. Mr. Hartman, are you still there? I'm kind of seeing your head's kind of frozen and bobbing back and forth.
I am. Your picture is frozen on my end, but your audio comes through.
Okay.
what we've got. Let's continue, and when we get the recording of the video, we'll see if it kept recording you or not, Mrs. Autobee.
Okay.
And if we have to do it again, we'll come back at a point where it makes sense, and I'll splice them together. Okay.
Sounds great. Yeah. So third grade is they have some pretty neat plans in place as well, and so they're using Google Classroom pretty heavily. Fourth grade as well. They haven't done a lot in the past with the technology, but they're learning very quickly about how to get that done. And then I think the ones that I was most excited about, besides the third grade yesterday, was the fifth grade. They have a surprise thing that they're actually having the students create a journal in addition to all of the other reading and math and language arts that they're doing. They're journaling their time during this pandemic and what it means for them, because as I've told a lot of our staff, we are creating history. We are part of the history that's new in our world. So they want the kids to be part of that creation. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, when we first started looking at digital resources, and I'll plug the fact that the Cañon City Schools website does have digital learning resources on there, we talked about really focusing on ELA and mathematics, as well as interventions for students in need. But there are some materials that are listed on there really around current events, because it is such a unique time in history. So kudos to all of your teachers. Sounds like a lot of good things. Interesting to see that fifth grade is thinking about how these students might actually document this moment in time that will surely they'll remember the rest of their lives.
Right. Absolutely.
And Marnie, it's
Mr. Hartman, let me jump in real quick. Mrs. Autobee, why don't you try turning your video off and then turning it back on, see if we get a reset on you to see you. And while you're doing that, just wanted to point out, I saw that you have a wonderful little calendar for sort of school spirit stuff coming up over the next several weeks. And I just thought that was really cool, the way you did that. So I wanted to offer some kudos on that front. See if you can turn your video back on, see if you come back on.
Yeah, I see myself. George, you're a green screen, and Adam is wow, he's pretty locked up on mine.
We'll keep going forward as we have it, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, Marnie, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that when I look over your shoulder, what is your left shoulder, but on the right-hand side of the screen as I see you, you have our skills and traits right in back of you. And, I was listening to you talk about what your teachers have been doing. I've been watching what you've been doing. I've been thinking about what kids have been doing and are about to do more of, and their parents too. And four things that just jump right off that poster are how agile are we? How agile have we been asked to be? How tenacious have we been? And then when you talk about our teachers and how they work together, what's their contribution been, making that contribution, and what's their collaboration look like? I am very proud of the work we've done around skills and traits, and this moment in time has given us a tremendous opportunity to really sink into them. So very cool.
Absolutely.
You already outlined really what that student experience is looking like, so I'm going to forgo that questions, but I'm going to jump a little forward here, Marnie. Talk to me about what responsibility will kids and parents have during this time? What do we need from them?
So I think the biggest thing is a lot of what we're doing at the elementary level, because we understand that parents have they have a lot of differing needs at that level. They might be taking care of younger siblings. They might have some interruptions to their work. They might not be able to access that computer at that time because their middle school sibling or high school sibling might be using it. So I will tell you that most of our online instruction for our elementary students is either recorded or available at any time of the day. And so it's simply a matter of clicking on getting into their Google Classroom, and which the kids should know how to do or how will be helped through with their teachers and Miss Stedman. They've been doing a lot of that work ahead of time anyway, through our technology classroom. But they'll be clicking in there, and then they'll see that the assignment, all of the instruction is already posted there for them. So they just would have to click through the link. So there's not like a really big time for them to be in live learning, because we know that might be a little hard considering that many of them have middle school or high school students who are doing that live learning. However, I do want to make sure that our parents and our students know that we do have available office hours for all of our elementary students to access their teachers, and their teachers should have shared that with the parents about when those office hours are. And at that time, that would be a time for them to have more of that live chatting, like what we're doing today, which we call Google Hangouts Meet. And that's where the students will have a little more individualized time, either with their classroom teacher or their interventionist teacher, for Linda Mood Bell classrooms, and their Linda Mood Bell reading groups, or maybe some special education intervention. They'll be meeting with those teachers in smaller live groups.
That's great. That's a comprehensive overview. Yeah, I'm actually in the room right now with my wife, who is a teacher, and the hours that she's established are long hours, and it's really around trying to meet the flexible needs of parents who we respect are having to work, do have multiple children, are trying to learn new things themselves at a very difficult time. So I sure appreciate teachers across the district and also just at Harrison School thinking about how you can make these things available in flexible formats to include time, the opportunity to repeat, but still give kids that direct support through the interventions too. So thanks, Marnie and Harrison staff for doing
The
all
other
of that.
thing that I think is really important to remember too is that many of our elementary teachers have their own young children at home.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so they're trying to help them through their own schoolwork while trying to meet the demands of their job. And so we're trying to kind of balance that out for those teachers who
Yep.
do have kind of that dual role right now. And so it seems to be, haven't heard any complaints yet today. We will be starting meetings with our teams tomorrow, just to see kind of how the first day went. And we'll be meeting with our elementary teams every week to just kind of have that touch base time and see how else we can support them while they do this.
Super. Marnie, you mentioned already that you've had a high percentage of families picking up materials. We talked about the fact that the district had purchased more Chromebooks to get them out to kids. Harrison is a school where previously we had not been able to be one-to-one down at the elementary level. When they're picking those up, they are taking home Chromebooks. Can you talk a little bit now about how important the Chromebook is to what we're attempting to do here? And also, what might families do if they run into problems with connectivity issues or even mechanical issues with the devices?
Right. Yeah. So what we're doing is we just want to make sure that every student at Harrison School has the opportunity to participate in this online learning experience. And so we have like literally brand new Chromebooks that are going out to our students. Now we are giving our kindergarten through first grade students some Chromebooks that we have used in our carts here, because we're expecting them to maybe be a little bit harder on the Chromebooks. All of them are touch screen, so that's really nice for kids who are still learning how to navigate the use of a computer.
Yeah.
But it's so important because this is really the only way that we have to communicate with our kids right now is through this online environment, especially because of the governor's newest announcement and the newest order that we are social distanced until at least through April 30th. So the use of the Chromebook is going to be really the only way they'll have the opportunity to get that learning done and that touching in with the teacher. One of the things that our district and actually the community has set up is free internet access through Spectrum for 2 months. And I heard that they're waiving the installation fee. If not, you can always reach out and contact us, and we'll put you in contact with someone who can help with that $60 installation fee. No contract needs to be signed at all with them. That was a couple of the questions came up this morning about that. So there's no contract, no whole, no hidden anything and no hidden strings. We just want you to have the access. We also had a
Marnie, if you don't mind me just jumping in for a second about what I hear is people are getting bills and they're being told not to pay the bills. And what I would say, just if you don't mind me saying through this video, if 3 months down the road you're still getting that installation bill, you bring it to the school district and we'll fight your fight for you with Spectrum, because their promise to us has been no installation charge, none of that. So if there's any confusion, you bring it to us and we'll fight the fight for you. Okay.
excellent, excellent. That's great to hear, George. So we'll remind our parents of that. We also had a couple mobile hotspots that we had already given out to some kids, and those have limited data on them. So if kids are using them for streaming videos or streaming movies, or somebody in the family is using it, it's not the appropriate use for it, because that data will shut off each day. So we really want to make sure we reserve that mobile hotspot for the education of the child. If the student has trouble and the teacher hasn't been able to troubleshoot it for them, there's a number that they can call. It is 276-5080. Did I say that right?
Yeah, George is actually going to be sharing that as part of this video. Yeah, and I think you actually had the number correct.
Okay, yeah, I think it's 276-5080. And that's the helpline for technology for our IT department. Please, please, please be patient with them. You will have to leave a message, most likely. There are only 5 of them that will be manning that line. And many of them are out in schools today helping us deploy these Chromebooks for our elementary kids. So I know I have 2 of them here with me today. So if you could please just be patient, they will get to you. A lot of times it's just a matter of just powering the entire Chromebook down and then trying one more time. That usually takes care of the issue. And if not, let them know at the tech line and they'll help you out.
You raise a good point. They have been inundated, but we're expecting that. That's a lot of new today for the community. George was able to check the number, and it looks like perhaps it was a little different than what you had listed. What is it, George?
5808 are the last 4 numbers. And when I post this and when I email the link to you, Mrs. Autobee, I'll include all the documents that show how to set up a stream, if you should have any of those going out. I'm not sure you do. A Chromebook, and then also what the emergency call line is as well. So.
And we also sent home actually student individualized sheets for all the kids that show their logon credentials, so that moms and dads can help them through that process too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, excellent. So Marnie, very last question, and we are running a little long on time, so just be as brief as you can be on this one. It's interesting because we're having to do the work differently, but we do want kids obviously to stay engaged and to keep them learning. So what is your plan for how you're looking at this in terms of promotion and retention issues? Some of the other principals have answered the question by saying, kids we were worried about, we already had those conversations with families. So we aren't popping anything new on them. But what are you thinking about during this last portion of trimester 3, and how we can help hold kids and families accountable to the learning?
Yeah. So we will be developing, we're already thinking about it. And as I think you alluded to earlier, we are going to be kind of keeping track of who's engaged and who's not. We'll have our elementary counselor reaching out to families if they aren't engaging in the instruction, and just find out if it's a technology issue. Is it, you just can't get on the online? What is it that's causing the issue? Is it scary? I mean, it's kind of terrifying for some adults to turn this over to the kids.
A lot of new.
We want to make sure that we're touching base with our families that way. And we will be keeping track of kind of how students are participating, not necessarily attendance wise, but just how much they're participating. And then towards the end of the year, we'll make our final decisions. But yes, you're right. We have had many of those conversations have been had already. But, for those students who are struggling, we really want to make sure that they're keeping up with the instruction that we're providing.
Thank you. And thank you for the answers on all the questions. Really appreciate it. I appreciate everything you've been doing over there, as well as Ms. Wiseman and Mr. Combs, all the teachers, all the paraprofessionals, and the list goes on. Your building has been used in some unique ways. Like I mentioned earlier, your custodial crew has been drawn upon. You guys also today played host to an important community event, obviously, because there was some drive-through testing for COVID-19. Harrison was home to that as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you, everything Harrison School. And thanks, George, for stitching this together with Ms. Autobee.
Yeah, and I would like to add some thank yous as well. Marne, you're the principal of the second largest school in Cañon City Schools, only behind Cañon City High School. You are in charge of the largest, I believe, the largest K-5 student population in the district as well as part of that deal. And so this is a challenging job, I know. You are blessed with a pretty darn nice facility that this community paid for back almost 20 years ago now. And we appreciate you letting us use it in all the ways we're doing so, being that we can't use it for kids. Would you please pass on for me and Mr. Hartman a big thank you to your staff for all the work they've done to get this digital instruction off the ground. I know it won't be perfect at first. I have no doubt that as we get several weeks into it, it'll be much better than it already is to start with. And we're all going to learn a lot along with the kids along the way for as long as it takes us to continue delivering instruction in this manner. So look forward to talking to you again soon. We'll sign off right now, and we'll make sure this video gets out to the rest of the community. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Hi,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye, families.